Okay. All right, so we're gonna go over a couple different current events that have happened recently. Really, the big one is the archive.org breach. So those of you who've maybe never heard of it, Archive or Internet Archive, they're basically just a massive like online library. They store tons of like media. They take snapshots of different websites and stuff. And if you've done like any of the CTFs, we use Internet Archive for a couple of them. But yeah, they're a super valuable resource. And I think the technical term for this type of breach is called a dick move, because it's just really like not cool, despite the vulnerabilities that they had. If I remember right, I think it was like 31 million user like information from their actual service was compromised, and then they underwent a bunch of denial of service attacks, and the website was completely defaced. They're still down. It's been like probably close to, is it more than that?
It's a week or two now.
Like a week or two, something like that now. So pretty unfortunate. They are slowly like getting everything back up and running, but it's like, it's an online library. It's like, that's not very nice. But yeah, that was one of the big major current events that happened recently. So.
All right, so what we're going to be talking about today are a bunch of the common ports you'll run into. So we did an Nmap scan, and with that, we're going to understand a lot of the common ports that will show up when you scan an IP address. The first one is SMB. Has anyone here heard of SMB? Okay, a few people, a couple of people. So SMB is commonly known for file sharing and sharing with printers. Where you might have seen it is, goodness, when you go to your file explorer, there will be this network option. Basically what hosts and servers can do is they can choose to host a folder over the network. So you can access a share on a different computer. You can access those files, you can upload files. It's all dependent on what permissions you get. It's very good because if we're in like a group of like, if I work somewhere and I'm a developer and I need access to other code, then maybe I can just go to somebody's SMB share and look at what they have, pull what they have, add to what they have, etc.
Got to share if you want.
What?
I've got to share up if you want.
Oh, sure.
I think there should be.
Is it on your server?
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Maybe. Please. Oh, oh, there we go.
So Ryan has a share on his server. As you can see here, I'm assuming you're VPN'd in,
Yeah.
right? So he's VPN'd into his network. And basically this share is hosted on one of his virtual machines or laptops or servers. And with SMB, you can go in here and see the files. What's a good file I can go to? Test.txt.
I don't know what's in that.
Go in here, you can edit it, save stuff to it, and you're just adding information to that server, right? So it makes things very easy to share files amongst computers and people who are working.
Ryan, where you get all those movies from?
Legally credible sources. I buy every movie that I watch.
Yeah, everything was legal on that share.
And the bullet pulled Arbiter.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
So yeah, SMB has been around for a very long time, and there are a lot of vulnerabilities with it. One of them is Eternal Blue. Has anyone here heard of Eternal Blue? Okay, a couple people. So if you see the NSA, the nice NSA meme, I don't know the exact story. I believe the NSA initially discovered it, and they basically kind of had a backdoor with it. Then the NSA got hacked, and the hackers leaked the vulnerability, and it started worming around. Things like relay attacks. So a cool thing with a relay attack is what it allows you to do is not have a password to a computer. It lets you relay a hash and authenticate to a computer. So if you're able to do like a man-in-the-middle attack, you're able to relay that hash that you're able to capture, send it off to a computer, and authenticate to it. Another one is a null session. I honestly don't know why this is a thing. What a null session is basically on some computers with the SMB protocol, you can have a username that's blank, have a password that's blank, and somehow authenticate to it and access it. I don't know why somebody thought that would be a good idea to have, but somebody somewhere did. With this, I kind of want to show you guys the methodology on how you go about actually exploiting these things. We don't have any slides for this, but if you run into SMB, does anyone know what port it's on?
445.
There you go. It's on port 445. If you see port 445, you just Google what is port 445. It's also commonly called this. I don't like that. Just call it SMB. A cool website you can go to is Hacktricks. So a lot of time you just type in the topic and Hacktricks. There's also a lot of these other websites that are very good. I recommend checking these out, but Hacktricks is just my go-to when you think about hacking a specific port or a specific idea when it comes to hacking. Go on Hacktricks. The cool thing about most of the Hacktricks stuff is when you actually visit these websites or tutorials and blogs, is it kind of tells you what it is. So SMB is also associated with this port 139 NetBIOS. And if you didn't initially know what SMB was, or you didn't learn it now, here's the time to learn it, right? It tells you what it is right here. It tells you what port it is. It tells you everything you need to know about it. It also gives you more information like the IPC share $. That's always going to be on a computer, right? Scrolling down, there's also this other section, possible credentials. So with SMB, you can also host SMB servers on Linux. They're referred to as Samba instead of SMB. But there's a lot of default credentials that can go into these. So the SMB null session that we were just talking about, you just keep it blank. A lot of things you look for when you're actually penetration testing is default credentials, and it happens a lot. I think I've ran into it way too many times. Like, it's actually crazy, the people who forget to change the default credentials. And then there's just a bunch of other cool things that these websites show off, like, has anyone heard of CrackMap Exec? No. Well, basically what CrackMap Exec allows you to do is, it's a Windows hacking tool, also Active Directory. But with CrackMap Exec, you can scan SMB, you can give it a username and password, and then it also has a bunch of different extra functionality that you can look through. I definitely recommend doing that. And then, yeah, just a whole bunch of other stuff. You can see there's so much information on here that helps you find vulnerabilities, exploit vulnerabilities, and just helps you learn. With that, I think we'll go on to the next one.
I can do it. I don't care if you want.
So, the next one that we have that's another common protocol is called FTP, for File Transfer Protocol. It's mostly just used for transferring files, and it's often found on port 21. So a lot of it's a kind of an older protocol. It is still used every now and then. But a couple common vulnerabilities of it with, so there's similar to like the guest or the null session with SMB, it has an anonymous login. So if you give it anonymous with no password, a lot of times you'll just land straight into the FTP server, which is another thing that we find that's really common for some reason. Sometimes it has weak encryption. It kind of just depends. And then there have been different vulnerabilities and stuff with the different like FTP services. So for example, there was the infamous smiley face backdoor on FTP 2.3.4, I think. So basically you just give it any user and then you put a smiley face and it will just open up a reverse shell and then you now have root over that box. So that's yeah, FTP is like, it's fairly simple. There's not like a ton going on with it, but it is something that a lot of like IoT devices, so things like printers, will have things like FTP turned on by default just because it's a really common thing for some reason. But yeah, so
Cool.
Next one is Telnet, which is a network protocol used for remote command line access to a machine. Think of it as like the early SSH. SSH is like the main new remote protocol, or not new. A lot of switches and stuff and networking equipment uses Telnet for some reason, so I don't know why. It's usually on port 23. But some common vulnerabilities are lack of encryption, anonymous logons, and it only supports basic authentication as far as I can tell. So that just means your user and pass, which is cool, but like if you put it in an enterprise environment, you can't do any like 80 logons with it. And it's usually old and commonly unmaintained, which is just means it's ripe for vulnerabilities, or when new ones are found, they aren't patched. And check out the meme, please. I made these in 10 minutes, so
You made the memes.
I made the memes because there's no memes about services. So
That's crazy.
yeah, if you like the memes, I don't know, leave some feedback at the end.
Yeah. Next thing, default credentials. We kind of touched on this a bit. So basically, anytime you run into a specific port or service, a good thing to always try is the default credentials. With a specific service, basically there's automatic credentials. I'm sure that comes to mind when you think of default credentials. So with FTP, it's commonly anonymous to log into FTP. SMB, it's the null again, nothing in there. Postgres SQL, Postgres, and then so yeah, a lot of these default credentials just allow you to log on, get the initial configurations. A lot of the time, system administrators forget to change the default credentials. I think most of the time I have seen it are on printers, right? Printers are bad.
Amazing.
People do not like to configure printers. That being said, printers are evil though. If you have to fix a printer, I feel bad for you. What is this? And then I think we have a little bit of a challenge here. So we have a challenge for you guys. We're gonna give you this IP. We've went through Nmap. Has anyone here not been here for the Nmap part? Okay, we're gonna help you out. Basically, Nmap is IP. Figure out what's on it. Do some of the research that we talked about, hack tricks, default credentials, etc. And then you should be able to get on there. And there's a really nice, very factual note on there for you. So yeah.
Yeah. You can also use ZenMap if you're on Windows and don't have a Kali box. Just Google ZenMap and it'll take you through that.
Say I can show the I have my Go ahead set up. if you
Oh,
wanna do
it
that
works too. I just could use the
Yeah, you
DC as
should
well.
do that after.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I'll get one second.
Break something?
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about 445 and 129. 422.
Or you can.
What do you get?
You're about to get blocked. Yeah.
Actually, AWS will pay and be because you guys are. You use AWS.
We have to. We need it for like CPTC stuff. So
Oops.
of a walkthrough on how you're going to solve this. So I'll start off with the Nmap scan. First thing we see is we see FTP, we see SSH, and then we see these other two services. We can also do this SVC. This PN right here basically says, I don't care if you send me a ping back, right? Remember, we ping it when we first Nmap them. And then if they don't ping back, this basically says, I don't care if you do that or not, I'm going to scan you. This right here, this SV, says, I want to see the versions on the ports. And then the SC, so this S and then the C, they're kind of chained together in the same flag. It's just, I'm going to run some default scripts on it. So hopefully this will give us some more insight into this, and hopefully just say SMB instead of Microsoft. Might take a while. There we go. So we identify as Samba, right? So it's the Linux version of SMB. Samba 4.6.2. This isn't vulnerable in itself. At least I don't think it is. I hope it's not. And then we have FTP. We have VSFTP 3.0.5. With this, I'm basically going to go over, we'll do some research. Again, Patrick's my go-to. Some other people might have a different go-to. And then, like I said before, if you don't know what FTP is, you can totally read through this. It tells you a lot about FTP, the different options, the different connections, the different ways to transfer files. What I'm interested in is this. And honestly, just because I already know the answer. If you're running into this port for the first time, you're going to want to run through all of this and do it. You can grab the banner with this. So if we do this, oh snap.
Jeez.
Yeah. We do a netcat. And then we do this. Port 21. It's called banner grabbing, right? So we grabbed the banner of what the service is, and the banner was just this VSFTP 3.0.5. And a lot of times I just go through most of this stuff. But what I'm interested in is this anonymous login that we talked about earlier and had the slides on. Kind of the default credential thing. So if we start with FTP, because this is how we connect, right? Put in our IP address. 162.102. And then it looks like the next step is asking for the username. So we type anonymous. Now it's asking for the password for anonymous. So again, it's anonymous. It won't display to the screen. You just type it. Login successful. Something we can do here now is, if you're unfamiliar with FTP, is you can go back on Google and look up how to use FTP, what commands you can use. Most services also have the help command. So there's a bunch of cool ones in here. You can go research those if you want. The one I'm interested in is, if I can find it, this one right here. What do we think the get command does on an FTP server? Yes, it downloads a file from the FTP server. So if we do an ls, you can basically see there's an upload directory. Does anyone know how I knew it was a folder instead of a file? There you go. So yeah, the permissions all the way on the left, it says D. If it was a file, it would probably not have anything right here. Yeah, it'd be one of these dashes. So we can do a CD upload. We can do an ls again. And now we see we're dealing with file, right? So we can do the get command mentioned earlier. We can get this passwords file, which this file does have very factual information in it. You can exit the FTP server, do an ls, and then we just displayed the very factual information. Right? So that's kind of how you go through the FTP. The flag is on SMB, so we will go through that. But I think Hunter kind of wanted to show off some SMB hacking tools first.
Yeah. I would try that and see if it worked. Okay.
There we go.
So yeah, the
that'll work.
thing we just did, the anonymous FTP, it's very common. It happens a lot.
Look on Shodan, you can find a ton of them in Minecraft.
Allegedly.
Yeah, theoretically.
So the this is kind of like some of the tools that we kind of mentioned earlier for SMB hacking. Since SMB is a lot more new and maintained, it's a lot more common for like specifically like Windows environments and stuff like that. So things like Active Directory, and for example, like one of the tools that Rain mentioned was CrackMap. So in this case, is it big?
That's better.
Okay, so this IP subnet that I'm in, this is in my own environment. So this is called GoAd, or Game of Active Directory. This is basically just like a Windows hacking or domain Active Directory hacking like environment. But if we look here, the output is a little borked. Okay, so based on here, so there were these 5 devices. We can ignore this one, but there were these. Yeah, these 5 devices here actually responded with SMB. So this is what it looks like if you were to query it with CrackMap. The tool that I like a lot more is called NetExec. It's by the same developers. It's just maintained more. I think CrackMap is actually no longer being maintained, and you get pretty colors in the terminal. But same thing, pretty much, like very similar output. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. But for example, so this is, in this case, we're looking at SMB. This is the IP address of this server. You can see what port it was, and that was the SMB port. This is the host name of the device. In this case, you can see that this is running Windows Server. This is the domain that it's attached to. SMB signing, that's a different thing. It's kind of like a security measure. And SMB v1, that's another thing that you can consider later on. SMB v1, so the Eternal Blue exploit that Rain actually mentioned earlier. SMB v1, at least at the time, was vulnerable to Eternal Blue. It's not always the case, but it is a potential indicator that it is vulnerable. But this is kind of what that looks like. So if you were in like an Active Directory environment or something, you would see all these different host names, you would see all these different things. And then there's various things that you can do with it. So for example, if we were going to try the null, so you can do username. Actually, we could do this one too. This is not my environment. I promise. This is literally just one of the domain admins. I don't know why the password is Sexy Wolfie, but we can throw it. So once that's there. Okay, so there's a little bit more that shows up. So this is once you try to authenticate. So this is essentially a password spraying attack. So what you're doing is you're taking this username, Rob Stark in our case, and this password, it's Sexy Wolfie, and you're throwing it across this entire network. You can do this with individual hosts, but basically the output would tell you whether or not that username and password combination was actually successful. So in this case, on King's Landing, you can tell that it wasn't because you get that, and this is also the message from the actual system. So this is logon failure. This one also didn't fail, but you can see here, if you have this little plus, that means that it did work. So that authentication did work on here. But if you see pwned over on the right, so this is just specific to CrackMap and NetExec. This means that now you have full control over this computer. And if you're doing like this type of thing and you're trying to do like privilege escalation and stuff like that inside of an Active Directory environment, a lot of the stuff that you're going to be throwing is going to be through SMB or similar protocols. And the thing that you always want to see, it's great for you, it's bad for the client, is if you see pwned on every single computer in the network. It's insane sometimes, the dopamine that you get when that happens. But that's like a quick rundown of what exactly NetExec looks like. And then I can do the, should we do the flag?
I kind of show the FTP. So the cool thing about this CrackMap NetExec tool is you can also scan different ports with it. So you can also do FTP. You can run it against this network. Basically, what this is saying right here, this /24, it's going to say, hey, I'm going to scan this whole subnet. If you don't know what a subnet is, that's totally fine. /24 means I'm going to scan basically 0 through 255. So it's going to replace this last number here, and it's going to go through 0 through 255, scan it, see if there's SMB there, try to authenticate, do whatever. You can do multiple different services, like I mentioned. So you can do the anonymous thing like we just did. I'm not sure if anonymous is on this network, but or FTP is in general. It looks like
Oh, that's
we-
responder.
oh, that's a different hacking tool. So this didn't work. This one didn't work. But yeah, the cool thing is you can scan a whole network. You can do a whole bunch of different services. You can do SQL, I think. You can do
You can try.
RDP. You can do VNC.
PC. I think.
RPC. A whole bunch of
Here
them.
we go.
Yeah, they're there.
So you can see here that you can do SQL, LDAP, RDP, SSH. There's a whole bunch of protocols that you can do with NetExec specifically. It's a really nice tool, but
It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of like internal pen testing.
yeah, it's awesome. But should we do the
Yeah, SMB.
Sure. So again, this is similar to the this is the exact same output that Rain had when we were doing the FTP stuff. So you can see FTP and SSH, but then there are these two ports that are used for SMB. I don't have like SMB client or like Impacket. Yeah, I don't have it on mine, so we're gonna do it the gross way. We're gonna
Oh,
connect to it through the GUI. So if you're on a Linux host and you did try to do it through like your File Explorer equivalent, this would be the way to type it in. This is not how you would do it in Windows. If you wanted to do it in Windows, it would look more like that. So if you were on your File Explorer and you went to the network tab and then in that little bar on the top, you could type this and interact with that server through SMB the exact same way that I'm about to. But I'm gonna do SMB. So we do that. You can say like guest or something like that, because that is a valid default credential combination, just guest with no password. We're going to connect to it. And then you can see the public share. So this is the only available share on this computer. I'll connect to that. And then now we can see the different flags and stuff that are actually on this share. So we can create a folder if we wanted to and say like that. There. So we created a folder. There's a couple things on here. I think Ryan was trying PS exec on this,
Yeah.
which is another Windows like hacking tool that uses SMB to get an executable on the actual box. I think it uses SMB. I think it does. But there's the not a flag, and this is the actual flag for the challenge. So if you go to the CTF, that might be too small. That's really small. I can't zoom in on this. Hold on, we're copying it to my desktop.
I can also show command line version on my computer if you need.
Okay. There we go. So if you got onto that SMB share, this would be the flag, and I think it's in the something meetings section of the CTF club. Oh yeah. It might. I
Well,
don't think
won't
I
work,
have
but
it.
they'll know the command.
Oh, for the Kali.
Yeah. That's the weird way to do it. You can do it just the IP.
Mm-hmm.
You can do just the IP.
Yeah. Welcome to Impacket. Yeah. So for Impacket, there's about 500 ways to type in every single command. So
So is it just
yeah, that works. That should work.
should
Thank-
work.
Let me go
Type
check.
this command in. Should hopefully work.
Yeah, so if you wanted to get onto that box, this is the command that you would type in through your Kali VM. Kali has Impacket installed.
It does work.
Yeah. So then this is, if you wanted to try it and get the flag yourself, this is what that would actually look like. So this would be the command you would use.
Doesn't work, you said?
Yeah, I don't have Impacket. I don't have SMB client on there either.
Pipex, bro.
I know.
Pipex, install and packet.
All right.
We're
doing it
the
right.
example scripts. It's a separate install.
Oh, that's all right.
I think it went.
Oh, I did it like
I
an
did
hour ago.
Pipex on here.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did something on here. Anyways. Maybe I did brew install and packet.
I tried that. I don't know if it works.
I've got them here if needed.
I don't see it on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
If you want, does anyone need help getting that flag at all? Connecting and getting your flag. So I can shares. I see the shares kind of look good up there. I can use this stuff. Space. It's just same thing with the or the FTP you can get. I don't know what all their stuff.
So please give us some feedback, especially if you like the memes. Yeah. So if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to ask as well. I'm gonna reach over you.
There we go.